In this video, we're going to talk about using the CodeSmith Insight Client. The CodeSmith Insight Client is in charge of gathering data from your application and sending it to the CodeSmith Insight server. The client will allow you to easily customize and enhance the information sent to CodeSmith Insight, making it useful for any situation. To demonstrate using the CodeSmith Insight Client, I'm going to download it from the Projects area of CodeSmith Insight. Let's open up the project dialog and download the client. When I download the client, 3 sample projects are downloaded along with it. Let me extract this first. You have an MVC project, web forms, and WinForms. Each of these projects points to the CodeSmith Insight Client in the bin folder. Each project sample contains the same set of samples using CodeSmith Insight, with the only differences being in regard to their different project types. For this demonstration, we're going to use the web forms project. So let's open it now. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up the web.config and show that the web.config, when you download the client projects, comes fully configured to be used immediately. You see the API key, the project ID, the config section settings are all set for you. So all you have to do when you download the client is open up the project and run. You can immediately send feedback to CodeSmith Insight. So first thing we want to look at is sending in feedback. With CodeSmith Insight's client, you have the ability to send in a question, feature request, or a defect report. So I'm going to send in a feature request now. Then I will show you how that feature request is created and sent to CodeSmith Insight. Okay, so that's sent. Let's go look at the send feedback.aspx file. All we had to do to send in a feature request is create a case, populate the 4 properties necessary to create the feature request, and submit the report. That's all it takes to immediately begin receiving feedback from your application, from the users of your application. So let's go to CodeSmith Insight and take a look at what we received. Look at the inbox, and here's the feature request. Not only do you receive the contact information, the description of the feature request, you also receive information regarding the system at the time that the user entered the feature request, the same information that you'd receive when you receive an exception report. So that's all there is to setting up your website to use a feature request. So now let's take a look at unhandled exceptions and adding additional information to those unhandled exceptions using the CodeSmith Insight Client API. So let's go look at the web.config first of all. We have the custom errors mode set to on, and each time an unhandled exception occurs within this site, the user is redirected to an error page. So let's go back to the site and let's click the force error link and our menu option, and we'll generate an unhandled exception on the site. As you can see, the user is redirected to an error page so that they can enter their contact information and any additional information they want to add about the case report or about the exception. Let's go back to CodeSmith Insight, because even though the user is sitting at this screen, the exception has already been sent to CodeSmith Insight. So as you can see, the exception has already been received by CodeSmith Insight. So now I'll enter some contact information, my email address, plus additional information about the exception that occurred. I'll send that report in. Let's go back to CodeSmith Insight. As you can see, the contact information and the additional information that I entered in the error page have now been added to the case report. So let's go look and see how that was done. We'll look at the error page. When the error page is loaded, right here we grab the last message identifier that was generated by CodeSmith Insight. The identifier is a GUID that is either stored in session state or in a cookie in the browser. So the site must support one of those options in order to grab this value. Once the information is entered and submit is hit, we instantiate an add case detail report with the message identifier that we grabbed up here, populate the email address and description properties, and send that to CodeSmith Insight. So with just a few lines of code, you're able to grab additional information from your users regarding the exceptions they encounter on your site. Lastly, we're going to take a look at adding additional information to case reports using the CodeSmith Insight Client API. So let's go look at the code behind for the default.aspx file. We'll take a look at this method. You see a try-catch block. We have a custom object, which is 4 properties: string, datetime, int, decimal. So there's several different types on this object. We're writing out some trace messages, and then we have a line that will throw an exception. Once the exception is thrown, we create a case, we add a tag to that case, and we call it important. And then we add this object that we have instantiated in the try block, and we add a custom field with a name and a value, and then we submit the case to CodeSmith Insight. So let's go back to the sample site, and let's click the link that executes that method. Then we'll go back to CodeSmith Insight and take a look at that case report. As you can see, all the information that we expect for the case report has been added: stack trace, the loaded modules, machine info, and request info files. However, the custom information that we just added using the CodeSmith Insight Client API is now available. Let's take a look at the custom object. The object received by CodeSmith Insight is XML serialized and added to the case. However, CodeSmith Insight offers the ability to add an XSLT to give you a very nice, clean look at the object. In this case, we can see the names and values for this object in a very nice format. Also, the trace info that we added is a list of the last X number of trace messages that we executed while running the sample application. This can be configured. In this case, I have it set to 25. The recent history log limit in the configuration section is what controls the number of trace messages that are included with the trace info file that is attached to the case. Also, the important tag was added. So in this case, we've added the tag. Also, we've added the custom method or custom field that with the method value and the method name. The method name and the value was the name of the method. As you can see, it's easy to add additional custom information to your case reports using the CodeSmith Insight Client API. We hope you enjoyed this overview of using the CodeSmith Insight Client. I am Shannon Davidson. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please contact us at support@codesmithtools.com, and thank you for using CodeSmith Insight.